Hey guys, so I just want to mention there was a few problems that we ran into in the recording of this. Mostly the fact that the first recording of this didn't have any audio. So this is the second recording of it. Yeah, it's not the same, obviously, as what it would be if it was the first time doing it. So we did try to add in a few different viewpoints and stuff to talk about regarding our topics. While upset about the fact that it's not the intended product I had for what I wanted, I am still happy that I can put this out. And hopefully, the next time we do this, I won't run into as many problems as I did this time. So, thank you for your understanding and sit back and enjoy. What's up, guys? Cody here with the first episode of Anima Talks, an ethereal podcast focused on discussing ethereal news and information as it pertains to gameplay, as well as discussing various MOBA concepts, systems, and ideas and how they relate to ethereal. I'm joined by my good friend Reppedout, who I've known for a few years now. Rep, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey guys, obviously I'm Reppedout. Kind of a little background story of who I am. So I initially started playing video games back with RTSs back in StarCraft 2. Transitioned over to MOBAs. Initially started playing Heroes, Heroes of New Earth, and then after that transitioned into League of Legends, and then played a little bit of HOTS, Heroes of the Storm. So I've been playing League of Legends for around since season 2. So man, too long actually. Holy moly, too long I've been playing League. Been playing competitively. Played on a couple teams with Cody CW 5136, and now I'm just hoping that Ethereal just really crushes the MOBA scene. So
And for those that are new to my channel, I'm C-Dubs, aka Cody. I've been playing League for the last 5 to 6 years as a support main. Last 3 or so years, I've been Diamond. And during my time with League, I've been on various teams, most of them with Rept. And I've been coaching on and off both individuals and teams in that time frame as well. So last week, Undying Games revealed Talos' kit. As a brief overview for the kit, Talos uses stamina instead of mana. We'll get more in depth into it later, but for now, you can't increase your stamina with items like you could with mana, and it regens slower while in combat. Talos' passive gives him resistances for every kill and assist. His special ability increases how much damage he deals, but at the cost of increased stamina consumption. His first ability, Huntsman Axe, is an axe cleave in front of him. If he connects it with an enemy, he can cast it again. His second ability, Mighty Kick, is a stun that if it connects, he can cast Mighty Uppercut, which is a linear knockup. His third ability, Radial Sever, is an axe troll around him that will deal bleed damage to enemies, and it will take off some cooldown off of his basic abilities. And his ultimate, Fearless, is a Leaping Ground Smash that will restore stamina proportionate to the number of enemies hit. So, Rep, what was your initial thoughts with the kit for Talos?
I guess first, just talking about Talos in general, I think his actual animation and his art is super awesome. I mean, who doesn't like a huge dude walking around with a big old axe? I will say, initially looking over his kit, it looks very counterintuitive. Just as far as synergy wise, I understand his ult, is on a kills and assists, he gets the stack of, Scavenging Huntsman, which increases his resistances. But I feel like once you get into the higher echelons of level, like, ELO or whatever the rank system is within this game, that's going to be less and less and less notable as a feature. I think it's unique and kind of going to be more skill based. His entire kit with a double activation, stamina. We'll get into stamina regeneration later. But the only thing that I'm very curious about is how he is classified as like a diver when the only real gap close he has is his ultimate. So I'm curious to see how long the cooldown on his ultimate is, because if his ultimate cooldown is only like 20 seconds where he could utilize it several times possibly in a fight, that might make him as that classified diver. But from initial look, without really seeing all of the cost and damage, I think he's kind of underwhelming.
That's kind of what I felt like. I felt like his kit is, his only way to get into a fight is this big flashy ultimate, but then you're not getting the stamina regeneration off of it. But outside of that, the rest of the kit looks at least interesting. It looks fun to play with, and it has a very rewarding aspect to it. Where if you land this ability, you get to cast it again, or you get to cast a different you get to cast a secondary ability that comes off of it. Or if you land this ability on many people, you get more out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's so I like that aspect to it, but yeah, the whole fact that he's very immobile outside of that ultimate, and he needs to be into the middle of the fight is counterintuitive. So
Yeah, I'm also really curious about the frenzy. It's because like he is already immobile, like
yeah,
and I could see it being utilized well with like other champions, like synergizing with champions that have hard CC. But he's already immobile enough to whereas once he does run out of stamina, and then he gets this like
mm-hmm.
90% debuff, it seemed like that he walked like incredibly slow. I'm just wondering of like how well that'll tie in and really how viable that'll make him.
Yeah, it seems like a double whammy, making it like, oh yeah, now his everything's gonna cost extra stamina. His basic attacks cost stamina. Oh, and by the way, once it's done, you can't move. Like
Good
you're
luck.
slowed. It
Hopefully you kill him.
yeah, it's just like it was just like, damn, man, they really like, I don't know, I really don't want this ability being that strong.
Yeah,
Or
I do like what you said about like kind of the rewardingness, like the reward of his kit, where it is like if you do hit a huge fearless and you like regenerate all of your stamina, or like your radial sever where you just hit their entire team, is like cool. Now everybody has a bleed. All of my cooldowns are up again. Let me just smash them again. So I think it's easily outplayable,
yeah,
but if you do have those like big highlight reels, I feel like he's just gonna pop off. So
yeah.
um,
So with Talos, we've touched on it a little bit, I think. No, not yet. But trying to remember between recordings. Um, but for Talos, where do we see him being played? Because I think you and me have a little bit of varying ideas as to where he can be. So,
so I personally see him going more towards like a supportive role, like albeit like maybe a jungle. But I if the meta permits, if there is a duo lane, that support role. Why I think that is because he has the inherent resistances from his passive, which although it might not be stacked crazy, it still assists with the tanky process. And as a support, you're not supposed to be like the tankiest person on the team. You're just supposed to be that extra meat shield to help out, right? And then as well, his mighty kick, so that gives him potentially two stuns, and that could be utilized to set up a gank from your jungle, right? So you can fearless into kick into stun, and it's like if you hit that, I don't know how the enemy's not dying, right? The
right.
enemy myth.
Yeah.
Um, so I could see that being his main position. And I think you and I both agree solo lane as well,
Solo lane,
potentially.
solo lane, and jungle.
Yeah. And go for it.
Yeah, I'm more adverse to the whole support thing because when originally they were announcing it, I was very much thinking, okay, he's a knight, he's gonna be able to be beefy and might have some CC, and then they announced his kid. I was like, I don't think I can take that support because I'm. It's a melee ability with no way to dash, no way to gap close outside of an ultimate. And it's just I sit there and think, God damn, I do not want to take this guy like a Malphite support in League of Legends. Because Malphite support in League of Legends, for those that don't know, can't do anything until level 6, and even then is completely tied down to his ultimate, and it's just like,
Yeah.
why are you playing Malphite support? Is So that's my thought process with that.
I think everybody can agree jungle will kind of have the same issue with like gap closing, even with some of the mark items.
Mark of the Feral
It'll be
Predator.
yeah, yeah, it'll be very reliant on his laners to set it up, which obviously that could be an easy thing. Some laners might have that hard CC, which will enable him to get that, but it'll be very dependent on his lane.
And uh, we've mentioned this before. I have on my channel, and other people have theorized that double jungle might be a thing. So technically, you could have a jungler that has all the CC, and Talos is just your main damage. That is always a potential option if you're missing out on CC. But double jungle is a topic for a different video, I think.
Yeah, we can go down the rabbit hole for sure on that.
Yeah. And then I think in solo lane, the biggest issue I have for solo lane is if he runs into a ranged matchup, because imagine throwing Dante up against this guy. There is nothing Talos can do against Dante.
Yeah, I think in that he'll just be forced to play weak side and like hope that other places on the map get an advantage because unless if his ults, if he has crazy burst initial, he has that potential to kill whichever ranged matchup he might have, but I would say odds are he's probably going to lose out pretty heavily. So
Yeah. The only thing he's got going for him is that I believe Huntsman's Axe can be casted twice on minions. It doesn't say that it has to hit a myth, I don't think. So I think he can double clear with that.
okay, so that would help with overall
Yeah.
clearing and keeping the wave in a neutral spot, freezing whatever it might be.
Yeah, and then the other thing to note, the only other thing to note is that if you're playing Dante the solo lane, that means you're not playing Dante somewhere else. Which, when there's only 7 myths available, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, but I think yeah, and then who would go into those other lands would be the
Yeah, that's
question.
we'll just
Maybe
have
have
to
some
wait and see.
spicy picks.
That's something we'll just have to wait and see at this point. So,
Um,
speaking of the different roles and whatnot, for when it comes to items for those roles, I think me and you both agree that any type of bruiser items are the way to go with Talos. So, generally speaking, anything that gives AD, health, and just resistances is generally good. Tankier items near the back of the build, and those more damage heavy items near the front. So, an item that immediately stuck out to me was Berserker Shield, which is, I think, the signature bruiser item in the game.
yeah,
That item
that
just
that
gives so much.
it feels like it's just like a must buy, right? Like,
On
uh,
almost any melee champion that uses
yeah,
AD, I feel like.
it's just the passives are just so good. Like above 50% health, gain 25, physical damage or physical power and 10% attack speed. Like, and then below 50 health, gain armor, HPS. Like, and then that's not even like that's just the passive, right? Like, it's not even including like the actual
Everything.
just static value. So I feel like that's going to be a must buy for sure on pretty much every bruiser, regardless.
Yeah. Other items that I
Um,
saw pairing potentially well with Talos is Blood Draining Scythe because it gives physical lifesteal, and physical lifesteal works off of all physical damage, apparently. I don't make the rules
um,
here, but that sounds really broken on somebody that's somewhat like somewhat of a melee caster to a degree. And then you can go a step further with this and pair it with Hollow Shield, which gives a 1,000 health shield if it's fully stacked, and it'll proc at the exact same time that the Scythe will proc at. So you got a big ass shield and a whole ton of extra life steal to just go to town with.
Yeah, literally just with those two items, right? You'll have the 30% lifesteal with the blood draining scythe, and then on top of that, a 1,000 HP shield.
Yeah.
So, and literally, you're just gonna be spamming your abilities anyway, right? So throughout that shield, nobody's gonna kill you, and then you just regen to full health, and it's like, oh, okay, nice.
If you were worried
I have to kill
at
you twice.
all about getting bursted down, nope.
Hmm.
Happening.
Yeah, but I definitely see at least the shield being tuned down. Probably a little bit. I think 1,000 HP is
A
a
thousand
little
HP over
much.
3 seconds, but yes, it's a lot. I mean, 3 seconds is actually a long ass time
Uh,
in MOBAs when you
yeah,
think about it.
that, that's
Yeah,
a little while. I mean, 3 seconds could make the difference, 100%.
yeah. 3 seconds, 1,000
So,
health shield is insane. Plus, it's super easy
but
to
then
stack.
also like on top of that, we don't really know the damage output of
True.
so like maybe 1,000 damage is
I
not. I
mean,
mean, I would assume because health pool
I mean,
should be relative.
like the divine gauntlet or whatever, the one that just gives straight health, gives like
Mhm.
800 health or something like that.
Yeah.
This
So,
is
so, so
more
that's
than that.
yeah, and that's I don't. I mean, we'll see once damage comes up, but I would assume it's gonna be nerfed. Like
Yeah,
there's,
it's got to. No way.
it's gonna have to be. That's wild. Sheesh,
Other
1,000
items
HP.
I was considering for Talos, Arcadian Havoc was an item that I was looking at. It gives a lot of damage up front for stats, and the passive works well with Talos, having that AoE procs on everybody. On top of like, it's just a good passive to have as the game scales. The only thing is like, Arcane Havoc is an item that you probably would want to buy early because you want the stats early. So that's the only bit downside with it.
Yeah, and that's where it'll kind of come versus like cost versus reward. Like, would you say that the Brilliant Havoc would be more important than like the Berserker's Shield?
Yeah, I don't know. Like as a first, if like you can afford it to get Arcane Havoc as a first item when maybe you don't need the
Mm.
health, those stats as
Yeah,
badly, that might be when you get it.
yeah, or it honestly might be more of like a kind of matchup dependent or
Hmm.
realistically if you're getting ahead, right? Like maybe the Brilliant Havoc is like a snowball or like vice versa, right?
Yeah.
Um, that I could see merit in both because like cooldown reaction is just going to be good in general. But I think he might be gated by his stamina. So I mean,
Something that we'll have to see. Yeah.
yeah,
And then as for the back half of the build, there's obviously like Harvey's backfitted chest guard, which is made for him pretty much. I don't think anybody else is going to be able to ever use this item whatsoever. So like an item that literally just screams this is Talos's item.
mhm.
Because otherwise,
Yeah,
you just can't get enough value out of it.
yeah. I think just the passive stacking on top of the passive, like his passive, right? So scavenging huntsman on top of the passive of the actual piece is like it's just too good to pass up, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I could see it maybe in a very like if you're a very behind game or like a game where not a whole lot of action's going, maybe it might be beneficial to go somewhere else. But even a low kill game, that's a lot of resistances. It's a lot of
Hmm.
resistances.
Yeah.
So
And then other like tank items, the only real notable ones that you should probably always consider, Gauntlet of Fear because AoE Fear is broken. Amulet of the Ancients, similar reason to Gauntlet of Fear, but it gives magic damage, so stats aren't exactly there. And then Disruptive Shield was the other one, just because you are going to be in the middle of everybody, so
mhm.
reflecting that damage back seems to be pretty good. Otherwise,
It
it's
can
just
be
kind of like
beneficial. Yeah.
situational.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like 30% of all the damage is like is pretty good, right? And
Is
it
it?
gives decent stats.
I don't think it's
It's
reflecting it in terms of.
It's
you
like
don't
taken
take it. You
is
still take
divided
it.
and reflected. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So
confused exactly how that works, but
that's what I'm like. So is take is so the damage taken is divided and reflected. So I mean, maybe you take so you
take a
take
portion of
30% of
it.
the physical damage. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
don't know. I
Hey,
don't
that's too
know.
much math for me, man.
It's too much to think about.
But I can see it being good in some situations. So yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I guess go for it.
Yeah. So well, I was gonna move on to the next segment, unless you have something
Yep.
else to mention for any
No,
other items.
no. We're good.
Okay. So we've mentioned a lot about stamina and whatnot. So with them adding this stamina into the game and what they've said about it, what are your thoughts as to how it's been implemented and what?
I I think stamina is kind of like, I think you and I are both of agreement. It's more of just like a different form of energy is seen within like other MOBAs. I think the concept is super awesome as far as like making it very high, like high risk, high reward, like very you're gonna have to be very cognizant of how you're using your abilities as far as how I understand stamina at this point. You're not just going to be able to blindly through all of your things. Where like versus mana within a fight, if you're 100% mana and 100% stamina, the mana user can just do whatever they want, right? Because odds are they're not going to run out of mana
Right.
unless if they're unless if their mana costs are very high, which could be potentially for some myths. But I believe that the stamina is very it's going to be based on how much stamina costs per skill, and if those secondary skills that we activate has an additional stamina cost. But as of right now, I think it's a very unique and awesome way they implemented it with increasing generation regeneration outside of combat while still having regeneration inside combat, but a lesser extent.
Yeah, that is something that as for the double cast or the secondary cast of abilities, that is something that they didn't quite explain whether or not those
Hmm.
had stamina costs attached to them or if they were going to be free. But obviously, I would assume that his kit is going to be balanced around whether or not they have a cost attached to them or not. And yeah, as for me regarding stamina, um, a lot of what you said resonates. And I think the only other thing is that like because they attached stamina onto this kit, it took what could be just a very simple kit and made it have an extra layer of skill attached to it, which I think is like I think that's a perfect way of like taking just someone that could have been very simple mechanically, and just it's a way to up the game for them, make it or at least like you can't say they're brain dead type of thing.
There's a higher skill ceiling, right?
Yeah,
It's not just like, all right, well, I'm just gonna sit here and press all my buttons. It's like, no, you have to understand what you're doing, how you're doing, where you're positioning. So no, I agree. Um, I do believe that I I just want to see more myths with stamina before I really make like a big determination of like how I feel about balance perspective. Because once they add more myths with stamina, I feel like the balancing might get to the point where it's a little weird, where like one stamina user might have an insane advantage or vice versa.
yeah.
So
Well, I do believe, at least like going off of what League does. League has their energy users all have the same amount, with the exception of Shen, who has double the amount, and but he
yeah.
also regens that double the rate. So it's almost the same.
Mhm.
So if they do something
Yeah.
like that and balance around that, probably will work out. As for other things, what if they were to introduce other forms of resource pools into the game? Um, I think we were mentioning earlier before we started about rage in League of Legends and other forms like that.
Yeah, so I mean, so there's so many unique things that we can create for like, a pool type. But the ones that I think the most of are like Rage, as seen with like, Tryndamere or Gnar, and then maybe associate like with Gnar, right? Associate different levels of maybe they transform or maybe they get more skills the more rage they have or whatever the thing may be, or a scene with set with like grit, right? A very unique type of pool where it's not like a resource pool, but it is tied directly to an ability. Or as well, kind of like Rek'Sai, where maybe auto attacks generate some sort of resource that will empower abilities. So I think kind of the sky's the limit as far as like what they could create. And as the game progresses and gets older, if I was a betting man, they're definitely going to add more types of pools, right, to
Mhm.
to broaden the game.
Yeah, I can
But
definitely see them doing that.
but how do you feel, CW, about no resource cost at all, just
uh,
cooldown?
oh, please don't. Please don't.
I mean,
It's
like,
uh,
just how do you feel about it? Come on, let us know.
I absolutely hate it when there's no resource cost attached to anything and it's all cooldown based. I absolutely hate it because I think it's just a balancing night, and it's just there's been so many times in League of Legends where it's just like a champion has they have nothing outside of cooldowns to gate them, and they are either useless or the biggest menace on the rift, and it's I'm just
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm along the same lines, right? But I do believe that they do have kind of a framework to work off of, as seen with every other MOBA. I don't think it's going to be, all doom and gloom of like they don't have a resource cost, they're just going to run it. But I do agree, it's much harder to gate a champion or a myth or whatever in any game if there's only two things you can take away from. If it's either like I reduce damage, I reduce damage or I reduce their cooldown. Like yes, you could reduce maybe their HP, but if we're talking as like just a pure strength, it's either cooldown reduction or realistic. Like yeah, I just don't
yeah.
I don't know how they're gonna balance it, and I'm kind of excited to see how they will balance it if they go that route. Maybe
But
they won't.
and
Maybe
I'm
they'll just be like,
sure.
nah.
Well, they might not. I know that like when Paragon was a thing, I don't think they ever had anybody that was manaless. I think every single person had mana.
At a resource. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can. I mean, I would imagine eventually they'll start making people without it, but maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just be like, no, we're not going to do
Maybe they're along the same mindset of you. Like, nah,
that.
too much work to balance
Too
that. We
much
don't care
work.
about that.
I mean, they're down to do some crazy things though. They
I mean,
already have.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if if you look at this game, like, I'm just so excited because of how unique it is. Just there are so many concepts that they're adding that are very like subtle things, right? Just very subtle things that entirely change how we view MOBAs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the just the lanes in general. Like we can go on a tangent, but like just the lanes in general is like mind-boggling to me. Just the possibilities of what you can do. The teleporter, like there's just so many great things that they're doing.
Mhm.
Honestly, so yeah, I'm hyped. I'm excited.
Okay. To round ourselves out, we're going to be touching on Arin, who is going to be the next myth revealed. Um, I don't really know what exactly to expect from him, but a melee magic damage bruiser
Question?
should be a lot to look forward to because in League of Legends, there's no real good AP bruiser in the game that I can reference from. The closest one is Silas, and he's his own separate category of champion. So
Yeah,
I'm really excited to see what they pull out here.
yeah. I'm excited to see and like. where he's going to go, right? Berserker class, a lot of people have identified the Berserker will possibly primarily be a jungle. So with that, maybe he's a jungler, or also like I kind of want to see if Berserker is viable, right? Like in another lane, like maybe
I'm sure he'll be good solo.
think
I mean, I feel like every bruiser is probably decent in a
good,
solo lane.
at least able to hold their own.
Mhm.
Um,
And like
yeah, I mean,
so
go.
just because like he has that berserker tag, that doesn't mean that he can't go in a different lane. Like his kit might be better suited to be in a lane and not be in a jungle. It's just then his class passive doesn't really work anymore unless he's running around. But
Then what's the point? I feel obligated to go jungle if I'm a berserker. You know
no,
what I'm saying?
there's just a random tree next to the lane that you gotta knock down every so often, so the jungler can't gank you from there. I don't know.
Crush it down. I mean, who knows? And so I was kind of, I was kind of a little nerdy, and I went and looked at all of his skill set
Hmm.
graphics and stuff like
Yeah, they
that.
released those today.
Yeah, the biggest one that I'm kind of drawn to. There's two is like the Infernal Aura, and then the Imminent Apocalypse. The
Okay.
Imminent Apocalypse is his ult, and then think they were. I think people are like thinking the Infernal Aura is his like his passive skill set or something like that, like something along those lines. We'll see,
Okay.
but I'm just curious if like the aura will be like kind of like an Amumu thing, or
Hmm.
maybe it's just like an infernal, like what it says, infernal aura, which is like an AoE dot, maybe
Maybe.
like a moon
I
dot
mean,
type
auras
build.
generally mean it's coming off of them.
Yeah,
So I would imagine. Ooh, I can already. I see some things turning in my head about. Ooh, we could take this
uh,
item. I don't want to say it. I'll save it. I'll
yeah.
save it for later. I'll save it for later. But I
No, I
see
feel
some
you, but
gears turning in my head of like,
uh
ooh, this could be nasty if this works out.
yeah.
Um,
So I just think he looks cool too, like just his art. I don't know if you've delved into the skins or anything like
I,
that.
I briefly looked at the skin. Um,
Yeah.
I can't tell you anything about what it looks like.
No,
No,
I feel you. No,
but
I yeah, it's just gonna be exciting to see a new myth, right? And go through
yeah,
the next like, ooh, what can
yeah.
we do with
Ooh,
this one? Nice.
new toys. Let's see.
What do we do?
Uh,
Um,
I,
I think
yeah. I'm gonna
briefly
say.
one
No,
thing
you can go.
I wanted to. Oh, sorry. I think we're having latency. One thing I wanted to kind of touch on is what you think the night class is going to be.
Ooh, right.
Kind of circling back to Talos, like what do you take by I have the blurbage written out that
Mm-hmm.
choose a relic at the
Yeah,
start of the match and
to
complete
get a
certain
goal.
goals to provide. So I just wanted to say, like, where do you think
Right.
what do you think that is?
It sounds a lot like support items from League of Legends in terms
Hmm.
of support items in League is like you either hit the opponent or you farm minions occasionally and you get this gold quest going, and once you've completed it you get access to awards. In the old days you would get access to activatable effects or
Yeah,
passive effects, as they've changed and whatnot. But it sounds a lot like that. I highly doubt it's gonna be like that, but the goal itself could literally be anything. It could be take
yeah.
damage, it could be deal damage, it could be farm X amount of camps, it could be get kills, or it could be
It's
go
kind of
to a
going
certain spot on the map. It's like
and dance real quick,
yeah,
laugh you out.
emote 10 times in front of your opponents.
Yeah, I just think it's cool that they're adding something like this because it's very vague is like
Yeah.
what it is and what it's going to do, but I think it's super cool where they're going with it. So hey, maybe that'll just propel Talos to be a support.
Oh, I hope.
We'll see.
I
We'll
hope.
see.
I mean, I imagine as for the rewards, it's probably gonna be like an AD and AD, AP, and tank type of reward scheme. Just because like that would give them 3 different ones, and it would kind of technically have them covered if they wanted to release like an AP
More
knight.
knights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, because outside of that, the only other thing I could see would just be like a unique type of buff that completing the quest gives them.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
Yeah. But
Um,
I think that's it. That's it for our
I think
topics for
so.
the day. So
Yeah. Just one more thing. I just want to let you know, we Talos will have a magic damage build. It's coming. His radial sever bleed. I'm telling you. Just
he's
wait.
gonna go in. He's gonna apply the bleed, and everyone's gonna die to it. It's
Exactly. He's
AP
literally.
Twitch. It's AP
Yep.
Twitch. I
I'm
don't know
telling
how
you.
much you've been watching lately, League of Legends in general, but AP Twitch. While I don't think it's actually that good, it is very funny to see AP Twitch walk up and just like auto somebody, have the full passive, and then them die from like half health. It's
Yep.
hilarious.
It's gonna happen. Mark my words.
Oh, hopefully not in my games, but but yeah, I that is going to be it for the first episode of Anima Talks. We do plan on doing these weekly, so check back in a week for the next one. Rep, do you want to plug anything of yours while we're?
Yeah, you can come follow me on YouTube, ReppedoutTV, or Twitch.tv, ReppedoutTV. I stream occasionally. Hopefully be making more content with CW about Ethereal and kind of add to the community in general.
Yeah, and I'll have his links in the description below. As for me, in addition to my YouTube channel, I do also stream over on Twitch, twitch.tv/CW5136. I stream generally most evenings if I'm not too busy. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, um, like and subscribe because, like I said, we'll be doing these every week. And I think for our first podcast, for our first time doing this, this went well outside of the other time that we did
But I
this.
say, this is the first time.
this
It
is
feels like we've done this
it's the
before.
first time for everybody else. It's
True. Okay, fair.
nobody
Fair.
knows that.
First time.
Yeah, it's the first time. I mean, yeah, it's not. It's obviously it's not the same. And I'll have put a little blurb in at the start of this. But,
Mhm.
yeah. So thank you all for watching. Next one should be out Wednesday or Thursday, hopefully, if we can have our schedules work out properly and whatnot. And in the meantime, we have Orin to look forward to tomorrow if I get this video up on time. So yeah, thanks everyone, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.